All right, we're going to get started in just a minute. We had a couple candidates that needed to run to use the restroom real fast. If you can hear my voice out in the Commons where we're doing the meet and greet, come on into the auditorium because we're going to be starting in just a couple minutes. Thank you so much. Play some music or something, Ash, until they get back up here. It'll be weird if you don't. Thank you. All right, good evening. We have a few folks still trickling in, but we're going to go ahead and get started. We have a lot to cover and a fairly short amount of time to do that, but let's start with welcoming you to the 2022 Van Buren County Candidate Forum. Thank you for coming. We appreciate your attendance, your concern and care and compassion for our community, support for our electoral process, the candidates that are running for the various offices that you're going to hear from tonight. It's just great that you're all here. It's been 6 years since we did this last, which is kind of crazy to think about. 2016 was when we held this last, and obviously there's a lot of reasons that we haven't done it since then, but it's great to be back because as I'm sure you all feel this way, and that's why you're here. We are privileged to be part of an electoral process that we get to have a voice in that, and obviously being an informed voter is a big key piece of that puzzle. So thank you for coming. It's a great thing. If you don't know who I am, my name's Jason Bull, and I moderated this a few times in the past, and so I'm kind of happy to be doing that again. I served on the Chamber of Commerce for a number of years up until 2019. And I was also previously on staff here at Freshwater as one of the pastors until 2018. Currently, I am back in the private sector. I serve as COO for Rhino Media Productions, which is a film and photography production company in Kalamazoo. But I've always loved politics. I love the political process. I love just how sacred it is and how important it is. So I was thrilled when the chamber said, hey, do you want to moderate this thing again? And I said, sure. So thank you for having me. It's going to be fun tonight. I want to go over just a few housekeeping items as we get started so that we're all kind of on the same page as to what's going to happen tonight and how it's going to happen, and hopefully to set the right tone for the evening. As you all know, politics are frequently inflammatory. They've always been kind of inflammatory, but in recent years, of course, we've all probably witnessed how that inflammatory has devolved on occasion into bad behavior. And we're not going to do that tonight, right? Right? Okay, right. We're going to set a few ground rules. The candidates for both the school board and the state and federal positions have all agreed to these ground rules, but I wanted to let you guys know kind of what they are so you're on the same page too. It's called a forum because it's designed to be informational. It's not a debate. The candidates are not going to be addressing each other, and they're not going to be attacking each other either. We have a format that will help that along. Part one, as you probably have already gathered or you can see in your program, we're going to be hearing from our school board candidates, and then that'll take just a little bit less than an hour if everything goes according to plan and you guys stay on time. And then we'll do a quick 5-minute intermission where we'll let them leave the stage. We'll bring up the state and federal candidates and kind of switch things over. So if you need to run and go potty real quick, you can do that. We'll have a little 5-minute break for that format. So how this is going to work is each candidate will give a 2-minute opening statement. That's designed to have them just help you get to know them better, maybe personally and their background and family stuff, whatever they decide to share. Then we will have a series of questions for the school board candidates. We're going to have 3 questions. They'll each have the same question, and they'll have the same amount of time to answer the question, 2 minutes. And we've set those up in a randomized order. So the questions will be up on the screen. You'll be able to see those and kind of keep track if they're actually answering the question. You'll also see the little order at the bottom of how they're going to answer that. So if you're waiting for a particular candidate to hear from them, you'll kind of know when they're going to answer the question. So hopefully that helps you feel a little bit more involved and engaged. The questions were a combination of submissions from the public as well as a committee on the chamber that kind of collected some of that things, and then as well as other important issues in our community, and collaborated on how to come up with a set of questions that was relevant for each group of candidates. Obviously, in this type of format, with the number of candidates we have and a limited amount of time, we can't ask every question. So that's why we do this in a meet and greet format. So hopefully the questions will get you some information and get your mind spinning a little bit. But then afterwards, if you are still wondering something about a particular candidate, hit them up out there in the meet and greet afterwards. We're going to have dessert from 8 to 8:30 or so. And if they run out of the building after this and don't answer your question, well, hey, that might be information for you as well, too. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. Don't do that. Maybe they have to leave real fast. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Audience, I'm going to ask you to please refrain from applause or cheering or whatever if you hear something you like or don't like. Any outbursts, things that are distracting, that kind of thing is just going to slow us down. And it doesn't stick with the spirit and the tone that we're trying to engage here. If you can't help yourself and you do that and you don't stop, we do have some folks here present that will encourage you to not participate in some way, maybe leave, I don't know. So just don't do that. Just be nice. Matter of fact, let's everybody do this right now. I think this will be good. Everybody take a huge deep breath in through your nose, deep as you can. Hold it for 8 seconds if you can. Exhale through your mouth now. Big, deep exhale. Okay. Doesn't that feel good? You guys feel better? All right. Hopefully that helped you out too. Okay. All right. Last thing I want to do, I want to throw out some thanks because it takes a lot to put this thing on. And maybe by way of saying some thanks, I can also clear the air because there's been a lot of scuttlebutt in the community that we've heard about this event and people having concerns for this reason over here and this reason over here and lots of that swirling around. I just want to kind of say thanks and set the record straight on some of that. First, I want to say thanks to the Pawpaw Chamber for organizing this event. There was a number of people on the chamber that helped contribute to this. Having served on the chamber when we did this before, it's a big endeavor, and it does involve a lot of people. So this wasn't just a particular one person who decided to do this or whatever. We've heard lots of different rumors in the community. This was a group effort by the chamber, and it's a big deal. I want to say thank you to Freshwater Community Church for hosting. We've also heard concerns that this is home turf for people, and Freshwater is slanted a certain way and wants certain candidates to win and things like that. And I can assure you that nothing's further from the truth. Freshwater Community Church does not have a dog in the fight in any of these elections. What they do have is a building in the community that's great for this kind of thing. And when we took over this building, that was one of our dreams, was to be able to provide service like this to the community. And so that's why Freshwater hosts things like this. I guess just one last thing I want to clear the air on. Let's just get it all out there. The crossover here, did not get moved because it's bolted to the stage. So that there's no sort of subliminal message there. This also is a church on Sunday, and it has a cross on Sunday. That cross is bolted to the stage, so we couldn't move it. So in case you're wondering about that. I want to thank you all you people here, for coming and being an informed voter and participating. And then last but not least, this is where you can all applause and cheer and stuff like this. Let's thank the candidates for doing this event. It's not an easy thing to run for any office. It's a thankless job if you get elected. There's a lot of lumps and bumps that you take when you go through being a candidate. So let's just all thank them right now for being here and doing this. All right, you guys ready? Okay. We will start with opening statements. Make sure my clicker's on. All right. Now, we happen to line them up in the order of their opening statements, so they're just going to go right down the line. First opening statement will be from Dale Pease. 2 minutes, Dale.
This work? All right. Well, first of all, thank you all for coming. My name is Dale Pease. I've been in the school board for a total of 7 years. Most recently, I've been in a 5-year term, and there was a couple years of gap, and then 2 years before that. I moved into the district with my family 13 years ago, and we moved here for the schools. So incredibly connected to the schools. I have 2 kids. My first son, he graduated last year. He's a proud graduate of Pawpaw. He's off at university. And my 15-year-old daughter, who's here in the audience, she's at the high school. So having been on the board the last 5 years, I'm incredibly proud of the work that we've done. There's been some big challenges. We worked through COVID and kept our kids in schools, partnered with the administration to make sure we had the kids in schools as much as we could. I'm really happy, as we look even compared to other districts, how much we had our kids in schools. We know there's regression that happened from that, and we're investing to make sure that we catch up there. We've had a couple bonds. Most recent bond is going to be setting us up for the future and our growth, and that was a no tax increase bond, as fiscal responsibility is an area of focus for me. And most recently, we're just launching a 5-year strategy. So I was on the committee that worked to develop a 5-year strategy for the district, and I'm really excited about that for the 22 to 27 school years. My focuses as a school board member are safety, both physical and mental safety, inclusion, fiscal responsibility, as I mentioned, and overall providing a premier education for our students, so to prepare them for the world they're going to enter. And so I'm super excited to serve for 6 more years as a board member here in Pawpaw. And my goal is to live our mission, which is to develop, support, challenge, and inspire every child for lifelong success. Thanks again for being here.
Just a reminder, hold your applause for the end, please. We'll do it all at once. Sorry, it'll just make it go faster. Thanks. Okay.
Good evening, and thank you, Pawpaw Chambers of Commerce, for hosting this forum. Thank you to the teachers, faculty, and staff that keep the schools and students in our district running and thriving. I want to thank my wife, Tori, and our 3 children, Jameson, Justine, Josiah, for going on this journey with me. 10 years ago, my wife and I chose Pawpaw as our forever home because we wanted our children to have a quality education, learn and understand what it means to have a good work ethic, and develop a solid foundation that would help them set on a path to future success. So far, we've been very pleased with what we have seen. However, there is more work to be done. If elected, I will bring a listening ear, compassionate heart to the concerns of the community, starting with our students. For those students who are in attendance, thank you so much for being here. Your presence is invaluable and your voice is necessary. We must begin to be intentional about including the students in conversations and decisions that we adults are making for and about them. Who better to guide us in a dialogue about how we can improve programs, policies, and procedures in our schools than the young people who are most affected by them? If elected, I will bring a fresh perspective to the table that prioritizes equity and access for all students, in addition to a deep passion for everyone to feel seen and a sense of safety and belonging. Pawpaw, we have some work to do, and if elected, I stand ready to serve to the best of my ability, being guided by integrity, honesty, and unwavering dedication to this community. Thank you.
Okay. Next, John Resige.
Good evening. I'm John Resige. Thank you all for coming tonight. I really do appreciate your involvement in our community. Your willingness to show up tonight says a lot. I'm running for school board. 5 years ago, my daughter, my wife, and we decided to move to Paw Paw because of the education system. I have 2 girls. One is currently in 8th grade and one is in 5th grade. They both go to Paw Paw. We enjoy the education system and the different opportunities that it provides. The reason why we came to Paw Paw was mostly for the education, but also for the arts. A lot of our neighboring school districts in this area don't have the same phenomenal arts program that we do. My girls are both active in that, in the different play, musicals, choir, things that Paw Paw offers that others don't, in addition to athletics. The reason why I'm running for school board is I have a huge desire to serve our community. Almost 22 years ago, I joined the military. My intention originally was to do 6 years, get back to college, and move on. But I learned that I love serving. I love helping people. So I stuck with it for 22 years now. I have learned a ton in those 22 years that have totally changed my worldview, my perspective on life, and things that I want to bring back to Paw Paw. I currently work in Kalamazoo, and I have a lot of training regarding school safety, different school safety aspects, and active shooter. I'm an active shooter instructor. We assisted in teaching all of KPS staff active shooter training. I would like to bring that expertise to Paw Paw because this is where my kids go, and this is where a lot of other people's kids go. I have an opportunity to provide that experience, that overview when it comes to different policies that we can effect here in Paw Paw. I really do hope that I can chat with you more after this event. I'm not much of a public speaker, but I would love to chat with you all one-on-one and have that opportunity to earn your vote. Thank you so much.
Thanks, John. Hi, my name's Lindsay Clark. I am running to retain my seat, so it's a 2-year term. I have lived in Paw Paw for about 5 years with my husband, Eric. He works at the Later Elementary, so I'm really proud of that. I was born in Van Buren County, so over in Hartford, if anyone's ever ventured that way. Like most people here, we left Kalamazoo and we moved here, and we chose Paw Paw for a lot of the reasons that these other guys mentioned. Paw Paw seemed to be a really good balance between a small town and a big town. We had a lot of opportunities here, and we thought that it would be really great for our kids. And since starting, it has been. We've had phenomenal teachers, and then my husband started working here too, and so that's been great for our family. I am a teacher by trade. This is year 15 in public ed for me, and I'm currently serving as a special ed teacher consultant, so I think that's something that's unique about me that I could bring to the board. I've been on the board for 2 years now, so I joined at the height of COVID when things were challenging, and we were really trying to figure out a way, like Dale said, to keep kids in school. And that was a big priority for us, and it served us really well. I know we had a lot of challenging discussions about that. We had a lot of compromise on the board about that, and I'm really proud of us for some of that too. So my big reason for why, like I said, I've got a lot of knowledge in education. I'd really like to continue to share that. I'd like to continue supporting our teachers, because right now we need every last one of them. And lastly, as much as we can, compromise within the community to just become the best Paw Paw we can for our kids. Thank you.
Thanks, Lindsay.
You ready? Hello, my name is Tori Meyer. I live in the Paw Paw community as well. I forget how many years I've been here, but we moved our twin girls here in probably 4th or 5th grade. They are now seniors. One of them is here with me tonight, and I am going to run out here at 7. No offense to anybody, because the other one is at the PAC singing in the choir. So it's kind of a divide and conquer thing, but I will leave some materials behind. I'll tell you that I got involved with the school board, not on the school board, about 2 years ago going to the school board. I was maybe one of the only ones there. And I was fighting for all of our kids to get back to school and to be safe and healthy, but fighting for their well-being and their mental health, because I knew that what was happening in the world and with COVID, that we were really putting them in jeopardy. And so I went and spoke at many, many school board meetings. And then when an open seat came up, I came and interviewed. And sometimes I think they put me on the board just to make me be quiet. But I don't know. They say they didn't. But it's really been a pleasure because I watched the board through all of those meetings really work together and discuss. But their ultimate goal is the well-being and the education of the kids. And that's what we really have to fight for. And I think everybody can agree that we really need to get back to that education and get our little humans prepared for the world and get them prepared for the world and to be good people. And I really want to continue to be part of that. Thank you.
Hi, I want to start by thanking everybody for being here. Your time is valuable, and the fact that you're out here tonight to listen to us speak means a lot. It means that you're involved in the community and you want to be informed. Thank you to the Chamber for organizing this and Freshwater Church for hosting it. It's a great facility to have. My name is Ray Martin. I am a skilled tradesman. Industrial machine repair is what I do for a living. And I am a lifelong resident of the area, except for the time that I spent in the Navy, fresh out of high school. I have 5 children. 4 of them are older adults. They all graduated from Mattawan High School, my alma mater. And prior to the last of those 4 graduating, I had a daughter with my current lovely wife, and she is a Pawpaw graduate herself, and she wanted her daughter to go to Pawpaw. And as a Mattawan graduate from 1991, for those of you that are of my age, you know that we were quite rivals back then. So if you told me back then I would marry somebody from Pawpaw and agree to have my daughter go to Pawpaw, I would have laughed. But I love this community. I moved in here and I just fell in love. It's such a great, tight-knit, personal community. Mattawan has grown a lot. It's not the same school that I went to, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I wanted Ava to have that small town feel as she goes through school. She's currently in 6th grade. So in 2019, we had freshly moved into the district, and a position opened up on the school board, and I was asked if I wanted to put in for it, and it interested me because I wanted to be involved with the community that we'd been involved with through 3 years of school for our daughter, but we had just recently moved. So I interviewed for that, and it seems that ever since I've been on the school board, we've dealt with controversial topics, one after the other. Sorry, I don't think that's my fault, but I believe that we have a good school board in place. I believe everybody that's sitting up here would make a good part of that as far as people that could, I'm sorry.
That's time. Thank you.
2 minutes went fast. You're welcome.
Yeah, it does go fast. Hey, great job, candidates. Thank you for those opening statements. We'll move on to the questions now. First question goes to Lindsay. And as I mentioned, we'll put these up on the screen so the audience can see those too. Lindsay, your question, well, actually a question for all the candidates. At recent school board meetings, members of the public voiced a loss of trust in the school board, which is evidenced by discussions on social media. What are the best ways to rebuild trust and support between trustees and parents? 2 minutes.
Thank you. This is a really big question because we have had a lot of really controversial things, like Ray said, going on. For me, I think the best way to sort of rebuild some of this is to have open conversations with people. We have to, just like we tell our kids, have hard discussions. And just like we teach our little ones, you can do hard things. And it's going to be awkward and it's going to be hard, and we're all going to have to learn to compromise a little to do what's best for our kids. So just today, actually, I had someone reach out and say, hey, can you explain some of this to me? Can we meet? Sure, absolutely. Let me know when. And I think in the last couple days since this last school board meeting we had, I've actually talked to more people in the last couple days than I have in the last couple months. And I'm excited about that because there are often people that see things a little bit differently than me. And I've learned a lot being on the school board. My friend Kim down there and I have had some really good conversations, and I think we've learned a lot from each other. And we often come from, different points of view on things. I've been in education a long time, so I see things from an educational lens. But when we talk to people that have different lenses than us, we learn why they think the way they do. And I've had another couple different conversations with people as I've sat on the Sex Ed Advisory Board and on the SEL committee, and just getting to have those conversations with people have really opened my eyes to a lot of the reasons that people think the way they do. That doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to change my opinion on things, but it does mean that I want to hear what they have to say, and it does mean that I want to listen and try to find compromise. So I think that's the best thing we can do, is just have those open and hard conversations. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Lindsay. Up next, Nathan.
Okay. So definitely the communication needs to be open. I don't know how much more information can be available, but I feel like if I get on there, I will try to figure out if there's more that we can explain, not only with the decisions that we can potentially make. Lost my train of thought. First time, well, now can't get any worse than this, right? Okay. Be more available, have conversations with the community, put ourselves out there. I would like to continually at least have 2 days where I'm in the schools, I'm talking to teachers, seeing what's working, seeing what's not what's working. And then I like to put myself out there for the community to ask questions and concerns. Like Lindsay said, I might not agree or want to change the bigger topic of the thing, but I would be fine compromising. Just to talk about the sex ed, I mean, if you don't want to be a participant of that, that's fine. We can find the best opportunity for something for you to do, for your kids to do, while they don't participate in that. So I think those type of conversations need to keep happening, and I think if we continue to communicate, less frustration will build in the community, and I think that's important. And then I also had a couple conversations with Brent McNick and Mr. Rio, and I think explaining how the board works to people continuously, even if you use the same material, it might reach more people. And then also, like they said at the last board meeting, you know, kind of the chain of command. Give the teachers and the administrations the opportunity to do their job. Thank you.
Lindsay's right. That is a really tough question to address first off. So the distrust in our district, some of it is warranted, most of it is warranted, some of it is not. A lot of times the information that flows through Facebook isn't necessarily factually correct. And then other times when it is factually correct, parents have a reason to be distrustful. I think moving forward, I currently serve on the SEL committee as a parent. I think moving forward, what the district should do is release information before decisions are made. If we can send out press releases or an email, you know, some official statement to all parents saying, hey, this is what we're considering doing, what do you think? The sad thing about the SEL Parent Committee was an afterthought. It wasn't established until a year after the curriculum had already been rolled out. By then, we had already lost trust throughout our community regarding that point. If we had sought a parent committee or parent involvement previously in a true manner, in a huge manner, it would have been beneficial to create buy-in amongst the community, amongst the parents, to get that pride and ownership over the curriculum that we're moving towards and to justify a reason behind why it's necessary. Then we would have had more advocates in the community speaking on behalf of the school district, speaking positively about the things that were being spread to where they could have, the community could have been our advocate, dispelling some of those unfactual rumors that were being spread, and it could have helped us to have a better process if we had considered what parents thought ahead of time and established that information ahead of time before we rolled it out. It could have been better. It helps to validate the process when we get the parents involved. It creates that buy-in that we truly need in order to have the advocates in the community that we really want if we do things intentionally ahead of time. I want to tell you that the emails that come out and the robocalls that come out, no other district around us does that. I'm very thankful for the information that is being shared by our school district. I wish it was more in-depth. I wish it was more thorough, and I wish that those decisions that were being thought about were shared ahead of time. Thank you.
I will try to pay attention to Mary in the front this time. I think a big part of trust is about any relationship. Trust is about communication, and that's where it starts. We need to be able to communicate to all of the stakeholders, the students, the community, the parents, and even the people that don't have a tie to the school district, but they have a tie to the community. We need to be open to that communication, have more open forums, maybe for people to come speak their piece. We do that sometimes for certain subjects. Maybe we need to do that more. Another part of that is also compromise. And compromise is going to be a key over the next several years, and maybe in the for longer than that. The world is changing, and as we deal with the issues that we never thought we would ever have to think about, and as a board member, I think we just need to be open to those hard conversations, and we need to be present in the community and willing to have those conversations even there. Several times I've been out just wandering around and been stopped by somebody who recognizes me as being on the school board and wanting to ask questions. And anytime, I'm an open book. Stop me, talk to me, email me, call me. Any questions you have, I'm willing to answer. So I think that being out in the community and being involved in the events of the school district also leads to awareness. You get a pulse of the thought process of what people have going on, and awareness can lead to that action. And hopefully the action that we take based on that awareness is what helps work on building that trust. If we find out something that is an important topic and we tackle that topic and we solve that, that should lead to the trust building with the community. So hopefully we're able to do that. I did recently start attending the SEL meetings. I thought it was just a committee meeting, and recently got invited as a board member to attend. I will continue to attend the SEL meetings. That is probably one of the most important topics that we're dealing with right now. So if we're going to deal with hard topics, we have to have hard conversations.
Thank you, Ray. Now we play hot potato and pass the mic all the way down to Dale.
So this is good feedback, and I see that feedback is a gift, right? So as a board, we've got to take this feedback and look at what we're doing today and how we can improve that. Rebuilding trust takes time, and what that time is going to take is the open communication. So a lot of great things have been said. So more detailed communication with the public, absolutely, on the topics that we're discussing as a board and how those decisions are being made. But I also really encourage more involvement or opportunities for parent involvement. So John mentioned and Ray mentioned both the parent committees they're a part of. And the more we can do that, the more feedback we can get from those parents to make sure we're building in their feedback into our decisions. And then lastly, just say, the availability or me reaching out. So I've done that. I've sought to understand a lot of this feedback and understand, what's happening. And there has been misinformation out there, which is related to, again, going back to just how we can communicate better with the community, and the community can understand what decisions that we have to make in the future, and so that we can have those parent committees and involvement. So for me, trust takes time to build. So we've got work to do in our communications, in our connections with the community, and that's an area that I strive to and will continue to strive to work with, building those connections and feedback from the community.
Great, thank you. And last, down to Tori.
Social media, slippery slope, that is. I love it for sharing pictures of my girls, but I will tell you, in the last few weeks, it has been the biggest source of misinformation that there could be out there on what was going on at the school board. Not sticking up for anything, but just letting you know that that was a reality. So a lot of tough conversations came out of that specific meeting that they're talking about. And when we sat there and listened, and I learned a lot of things from listening to the community and their thoughts and feelings, and I wish that we would hear that stuff more. One thing that I learned, as I said, going to school board meetings as a parent for 2 years, I learned that when I first came to the board, I was so mad at the board, so mad at them. And it really didn't have anything to do with them. And they were actually fighting the same fight that I was looking for the well-being of our children. So I think just a general knowledge of what the board's purpose is, and that would be like I consider it like a bridge a bridge from the community. We listen to you, we listen to the direction that you want the schools to go in, and then we share that down with administration, like, this is what our community wants, let's execute on that. And not to say that coming up in the future, we may have to make some difficult decisions or some changes or something like that, but just talk to any of us. That's the biggest thing I can say. Talk, email, come to the meetings, and just know, because I think you'll find some differences.
Great. Yep. All right. Ray's going to take our next question first. Candidates, this working okay for you guys to see the question up on that screen? We were hoping it would save us a little time having to repeat them. Okay, good. All right, question number 2, starting with Ray. What is your vision for education in our community, and what specific actions will be a priority of yours to reach that vision? What is your vision for education in our community, and what specific actions will be a priority of yours to reach that vision?
Well, my vision of education overall is about giving our kids the best education from K through 12 that we are able to provide, and part of that includes making sure that by the time our students graduate from Paw Paw High School, that they are ready to venture into the real world that exists for them after that. And for every one of these students, that after time can look a little bit different. We have children that will go to college. We have children that will go into the workforce, the skilled trades, the military. Everybody has a different path, and our vision for our district should be about making sure that every single one of those students' needs are met so that they can meet those goals when they get out of there. And part of the action for that is making the changes to the curriculum and updating things that are going to be beneficial to that end. And one example I'll bring for that is that recently approved the change to a trimester schedule at the high school. And the trimester schedule at the high school has allowed for a lot of different unique classes that would not exist. I just saw a report on the current wilderness class. I mean, that's a class that would not exist with a semester setup. The trimester opens that up. So being able to have those different unique classes that are interesting and engaging for our children so that whatever their future goals are, they're able to be met with that setup. So the action is just about listening to the educators that have that expertise and allowing them the freedom to teach the way they need to teach and be able to come up with those innovative classes.
Thank you, Ray. Next is Lindsay.
So, like I said, I have spent the last 15 years in public ed, and before that, I was a graduate of public ed. So I come from Hartford, and it's a smaller town than this, and I had a great experience there. I had a great time in high school. I built floats, and I played volleyball. I was in all the plays, and we did all of those great things, and I really want our kids to have those experiences too. I want them to have great experiences in Paw Paw, to look back and say, wow, I loved growing up in Paw Paw. And at the same time, I want them to be ready for the world. I want them to be college and or career ready. We need teachers, we need doctors, and we need plumbers, and we need hairdressers. And we need to make sure that our kids have every opportunity to explore whatever they think is going to bring them joy and is going to bring pride to our community. So the way that I think we should do that, honestly, we need to keep the best staff possible. We need to make sure our teachers are taken care of. We need to make sure they're taking care of the kids. We need to make sure, as my buddy Dale says, we have premier facilities that our kids can be proud of and our community can be proud of. I want people to come here and say, wow, look at that. Look at that field. Look at that gym. Look at that auxiliary gym. Look at that PAC center. And I think that what we need to keep doing, and what I plan to keep doing, hopefully from my board seat, is to lead by example, right? It's hard for us to say, hey, be involved if we're not involved. So that's why when I join the board, I join committees. That's why I volunteer in my kids' classroom, right? So I think it's important for us as board members to do that, to lead by example and to make sure that we are doing the best we can to get kids ready for life after Paw Paw. Thanks.
To answer that first question, what is your vision for education in our community? My vision is education. We need to get back to education. We need to get out some of the noise and educate our kids, get them ready for the world. Focus on what they need to learn to grow. I mean, we've got 12 years with them. They have 50 years in the workforce and beyond. So we want to prepare them for that. And I think that we've lost our focus a little bit more recently, and not just Pawpaw, everywhere. And so that's the one thing that's probably most important to me, is just shutting down the noise and getting back to education and having them have positive and good experiences and having them feel loved at school in a positive environment and a good culture. We could work on our culture in Pawpaw, I'm not going to lie. And I think that that's some conversations that we need to have. Our kids just, they really need that, and they need to go to school and have fun, and then they need to also be able to learn. One thing that's really important to me is there is not one child in our school that is more important than the other one. I don't believe in silos. I don't believe in putting kids in groups. I don't believe in excluding anybody or overly including anybody. And I think that if we can all, get to a cohesive culture where we just care and love about each other, that, the education will come so much easier, and it'll be so much easier for our teachers as well. Thanks.
So this is a topic we've had a lot of discussion on as a board and in the building of our 5-year plan. So Lindsay kind of said it. When I talk about the district, I want it to be a destination premier district. I want our education to foster a culture of success. And how we do that is continuing to invest in the great things we already have going on. We've heard tonight about the arts, our programs that we have, and our robotics programs, and great things that we have in the district, and we just need to continue to invest in those areas. So our 5-year plan talks about building together with the community, which goes back to the last answer we just talked about. But this question has vision in it. And the vision that we have in our 5-year plan is united with our community to build success. And how we do that, obviously we have academic growth, and we are adding programs, and we are adding resources for those programs to keep a good student-teacher ratio. Social emotional growth, to make sure our kids are prepared to learn every day. Fostering a culture of kindness, respect, and safety. Building community connections, if you've seen the senior services connections that we're doing, executing on that and building more connections with local businesses for our students to have opportunities both to work, both in school and out of school. And then our facilities. We have beautiful facilities in Pawpaw. We want to continue to have beautiful facilities and use the bond work that we've just passed. We're adding early childhood development, which is going to help our district's enrollment and support the community, which is one of the big points of why we do what we do, is to support the entire community. And then the additional classrooms at the elementaries, the expansion at the high school, the safety improvements that we have. So my vision for the district is to be a destination district, a premier education that fosters a culture of success and prepares our students better than other districts. And as we look at metrics, we want our metrics for graduation rates, for test scores to continue to improve. Thank you.
All right, so sorry, I'm super loud. My vision for the district, vision for education, is one that supports the students, supports the parents, and supports our educators. We support educators by giving them the resources they need, providing them with current curriculum and the different tools that they need to develop their lesson plans, supporting them, just encouraging them. And that's a job of the parents as well as the job of the school board, the school administrators. My idea, my vision, my plan, my action for supporting the parents is, as a district, we need to reaffirm that parent-student relationship. There are a lot of things that come up in school that we should redirect the student back to their parent. We need to involve the parents in communications. We need to get their input when we're making decisions, and we need to support that parent-student relationship and redirect things back to them. We can increase our parent-student relationship through communicating with our parents and making sure that they're well informed about the different programs that the school offers. Supporting the student is a little more difficult. So we need to support every single student, no matter where they are or what they're experiencing, okay? If we support just our athletes, we're wrong. If we support just the kids who choose the arts program, we're wrong. We need to support every single student, no matter where they are. I know that there are a lot of kids in our district, because of the current pandemic or the former pandemic, that are struggling academically. One of the programs that I would like to see us implement is more of a resource after-school program. Miss DiPierre in the later elementary has created this running program where she brings kids in from the high school and they help the kids with running, and that is phenomenal. I support that program and the athletics that program is involved. We need to do the same thing for academics. We have kids in 7th, 8th, 9th grade that could spend a little bit of time after school supporting some of these kids that are struggling, maybe grades behind them, with math resources, reading resources, whatever other program that they're struggling with. They can volunteer their time after class to go down to the later elementary and meet with a student and help them excel. We don't necessarily have the staff to meet one-on-one with every kid. My red panel's up. Thanks, guys.
Okay, for me, it's a little bit more than just education. I also want to help the students build character, because we can educate them to be geniuses or, be highly educated, but if they don't have good social skills and communication skills, you won't move up in companies. I mean, I've seen it, and it's unfortunate. So my vision would be to not only provide what we've seen in Paw Paw, which all the programs that you guys have to offer, but to also build on it. And like I said, hiring good teachers to help the parents build the character and the foundation for the students when they move on. And I don't want them to just move on and go to Kalamazoo and just do a school. If they go to they go to New York, they go to bigger cities, I want them to not have such a culture shock and be prepared for the world, So I want them to envision a big dream, bigger than Kalamazoo, bigger than South Haven, or wherever you're thinking. Go to the next step. What's the next thing that they can accomplish? And that's my thinking on that. Some of the actions, I like to work with teachers, administrators, other board members, and students to see what programs they enjoy, what new programs we can add, just some of the things: wood trade, robotics, engineering, writing, poetry, entrepreneur skills. Let's reintroduce life skills. I want people to know how to use their money when they get older, so they're not bound by debt. So it's I'm going all over the place, but it's more than just education for me. Thank you.
Time. Great. Hey, thank you, candidates, for doing a good job on your time and watching Mary. Mary, thank you for doing time. Mary was very nervous about that job. It is a lot of pressure. You're doing awesome. All right, we have one more question. Starts out with John. And the final question is, school board trustees are ultimately accountable to voters, but how do you view your responsibility to the students, staff, and community members of this school district? 2 minutes.
So every single person in our community is important, whether they're old enough to vote or not. It doesn't matter. Our staff is also important. As you guys know, teachers, we're losing a lot of them. So we need to make sure that in order to support our voters, who I am ultimately going to be held accountable by, I am retaining teachers and supporting them as well. Our students have a huge impact in the success of our district. So supporting all of them, like I said on my last question, is the ultimate goal. We can't support just the voters. I want to make sure that I'm listening to voters and that I'm taking into consideration every single concern that they have. But unfortunately, they're not the only person. They're the person that's going to get me to that position. But once I'm in that position, I need to make sure that I'm fulfilling their overall desire. Their overall desire includes education that is provided to students in a manner that students can excel. I know that's the direction the voters want to go. And staff is necessary in order to facilitate that. We cannot facilitate educational goals when our staff members leave our district at an unsustainable rate, which is what's happening currently, unfortunately. A lot of the teachers are leaving our district. We need to come up with reasons why they're leaving the district. I would like to see some exit survey data in order to try to retain them and keep them in our district, make sure we don't continue to lose more teachers. I would like to support the students by providing opportunities for them to do different things after schools, like I've talked about with band or athletics or anything like that, but also supporting them academically. I know a lot of kids in our district are struggling with the basic things like reading, writing, and arithmetic. If we can support them with the after-school programs where we involve kids from higher grades, helping them out, that is going to benefit our students and ultimately please the voters as well. And then finally, going back to the voters, you have to listen to them. I just have to be available on a regular basis to answer your questions, to hear your concerns, to redirect you as necessary to find the things that you need to find in our district. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Being on the school board has been an interesting time. One of the things that when I always go into a meeting, I think about is we have community members, we have students, we have families that are everywhere on the spectrum from A to Z. So I always picture myself with my little alphabet. And so when I'm making decisions, I have to think of putting us at M. And you know what they say about compromise, that if you make a compromise, nobody's happy. But really that's the biggest thing is we have to really take the input of all sorts of ideas and beliefs and people's opinions, and we have to try to find a good middle ground for that. Are we always successful? Maybe not. I think we do a pretty good job with that. As far as the staff goes, I think we underestimate their, I don't want to say their knowledge, we don't underestimate their knowledge, but we underestimate their input. We don't get their input enough. I had a nice conversation with a teacher last night, and I just said to her, I said, you're on the front lines with the children, and why don't we hear from you more? And the thing that bothers me is the teachers are scared to speak out. Who are they scared of? And why would they be scared to speak out on behalf of our children, for fear of losing their job? That's not okay. So what they're seeing that goes on, I mean, we're the farthest removed from it, so then we've got admin and then the teachers, and so we need to rely on them more to give us guidance on what we need to do.
Who's it now? They got red paddled. I know that.
Okay, I'm gonna come at it a little bit different. I feel like I'm trying to answer these questions directly, but it's always a bigger topic for me. So I don't see us just being accountable to voters, because there's conversations that happen that people who are not voters, people who may not vote, the students talk to their parents, students listen to their parents talk, teachers talk to each other, teachers talk to the students. So we're essentially accountable to everybody. If one of those branches of groups that are up there is not happy, then it translates in either you being reelected or not. I mean, if students are not happy, they're not going to do good in school, and teachers are going to be unhappy, because we're all kids. We all been kids, and you've been in class, and when you hate a topic or you're unhappy, you're going to act out, or you're not going to give the attention that the teacher needs. So what I'm trying to say is that we have to continue the communication. I feel like all the answers for these questions starts with communication and integrity, honestly. So I think, keeping the communication up between those so they can feel that we're being accountable to them. So, and then, hold on. Well, I think that's it.
Thanks, Nathan.
I know. Give me the red sign.
Okay, so, our responsibility to all these parties, voters, students, staff, community members, is a great responsibility. So I see my responsibility is to listen. My responsibility is to learn. My responsibility is to debate. My responsibility is to educate myself. and partner with the teachers, administration, and basically connect with all stakeholders involved when we have decisions to make, and then understand the impact of those decisions. How does a decision that we make as a board impact the community? How does it impact the voters? How does it impact the students and staff? And then once we understand all that, make the best decision possible for those people impacted. And then once we've made those decisions, also be open to maybe change. Maybe something new came in, and we've got to look at some things differently. We need to constantly be evolving to support all the people in our community and our students and teachers. And I know our teachers in Paw Paw love our kids. So we need to continue to make sure we're supporting our teachers in a way that they can teach and educate our kids and love our kids so they can produce great kids that go into the community, because those kids then become voters. When we were talking about the last bond, one of the things we did was we went and educated our 18-year-old kids, because they are this community, they are our voters, and got their feedback on what we were looking to do and asked for their vote. So my first responsibility is to listen and then learn, debate, and then once we've made decisions, I think the last thing is, and we've learned tonight, is overly communicate the why decisions are made. But I think, again, after you communicate the why and you listen, you've got to be willing to adjust if you need to those decisions that were made. Thank you.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that we're actually responsible to up here. Obviously, to the accountability to the voters, and but as far as the students go, our issue with the students is we are responsible to ensure that they have the best resources necessary for their success. The resources would be in the teaching staff and the academic and athletic programs that we offer, and just allowing them to be able to pursue whatever their desires are. And that kind of goes into the staff side of things. By working toward the goals of making Paw Paw one of the premier districts and destination districts of Southwest Michigan, that's a goal to allow us to teach or attract better teachers, attract the best of the best. We want to be able to have the best resources for our students, and it's our job once we get them here to also be able to retain them. And part of that comes to being fiscally responsible. We had a situation recently. We had a pretty decent fund balance, and we started looking at what do we need to do. We were a little bit cautious through the COVID timeframe. We weren't sure what direction things were going to go in as far as the financing and the funding. And once that kind of smoothed over a little bit, we were able to look at it and go, okay, what can we do? And we were able to recently give some increases to our teachers. And that's important because, as I think John mentioned earlier, we do have some teachers that have been leaving the district, and we need to retain and attract. And as far as community members, and again, all of this, with all this, it just comes down to communication. The community members, we just need to be present and be at events, and we need to be open to communication, whether that's through face-to-face contact, emails, phone calls, whatever that may be. Be open, listen, and be willing to address those changes that are necessary for our kids.
So I think a lot of great things have been set up here already by a lot of my colleagues. But I have to say, I think our biggest responsibility as school board members, we're accountable to voters and teachers and students and staff. But our ultimate job is to sort of, evaluate how the district is doing as a whole. And one of the biggest things we need to do with that is, I think, listen, learn, like Dale said, but also be there to support when things get hard and to support when things are changing. Education today is so different than it was 15 years ago, than it was 30 years ago. And what we need to do is we need to make sure that we're keeping up, right? We need to make sure that our students are provided every opportunity. We need to make sure our students feel safe, both physically and mentally, right? We're in a mental health crisis right now across our country, right? Kids don't feel safe. Kids don't feel heard. We need to make sure they do. That should be a big part of what we're doing. Our staff, we've talked about, staff retention. That's obviously important to me as a teacher, making sure our teachers feel heard. And I think a big thing that we need to do with that is create that buy-in. The other day I got invited to a meeting at the Early L, and I just wanted to make sure that they felt heard, and it was great. they felt so special that a school board member would go and sit in a meeting with them. That's one of my favorite things. And then I think one of the big things for us to do, and for me personally, is to, lead by example, show kindness to everyone, and then show a little humility. Sometimes people forget school board members are human. We make mistakes just like everybody else out there in the audience does, just like our kids do. And we need to sort of show people like, hey, we're human, we make mistakes, but we want to learn and grow from that. So I look forward to that chance. Thanks.
Time. Great. All right, great job, candidates. You made it through the question portion. We'll move into closing remarks. Tori, we'll start first. We're going to give Mary just 5 seconds to set you got 1 minute? Okay, closing statements are 1 minute, so you got to move a little bit quicker, candidates. Here's your last chance to say what's on your mind. 1 minute, go ahead.
Again, I'd just like to thank everybody for coming here. The biggest focus that I don't think we want to lose is this is about our kids. And I think it bothers me sometimes when adults are fighting, and they're fighting over top of these kids that are so innocent and so blind to just everything. I have a beautiful friend that has a little 5-year-old daughter, and she, just tells me all the time about the innocence that in her eyes. And we need to remember that, and we need to remember to be good people for them and do the best for them, and maybe put aside what our extreme thoughts are one way or the other, and just think about what's best for them. And as a school board member, that's the best thing that I can do, is just always keep that in mind. Not the politics, not the anger, not the right side, left side, just the kids. Thanks.
Hi. I've learned a lot in the last 3.5 years of being on the board, and I hope for another 6 years of personal growth for myself as I'm able to help the district guide the future of our community as they walk through the hallways of our buildings. And my desire is that all of our students are going to be ready for the world that awaits them after high school, whatever that path might be. Communication and compromise are going to be keys to that, and I look forward to being a part of all that. And we all need to be all in for all kids.
Well, first I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce and everyone for coming. I appreciate everyone being here and listening to us talk about the school board. For me, closing this out, I just want to make sure that every kid that graduates from Pawpaw has the same experience that my kids have, and have the opportunities that they have. And my goal with working on the school board, hopefully for another 6 years, is to continue to build on the great success that we have. We're not perfect, and we're never going to be perfect. There are going to be issues that come up in the future that we're not talking about today. But what you can be assured with me on the school board is that I'm going to listen, and I'm going to focus on what's the best for our community and kids and teachers and staff, so that we can continue to have a great district producing great students into our community, great community members who will be beneficial to our community and have great futures. So I'll just reiterate my focus: safety, inclusion, fiscal responsibility, and overall premier education. I really look forward to continuing to serve. Thank you.
I feel a sense of pride right now to live in a place where there are people like myself and who you've heard today that are passionate about serving the people of Pawpaw. I recognize that we are fortunate to live in a community where education is paramount, but each year we are faced with tough decisions on curriculum, policies, and how to navigate divisive and societal issues which affect the students and families that make up this fine community. James Baldwin once said, "Not everything faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced." We have a unique opportunity in a small town to make a huge impact. The world is changing, education is changing, whether we are willing to accept it or not. And we must be courageous enough to face challenges head on and work together so we can continue to create the community that we all deserve. If elected, I look forward to working alongside other committed individuals and guiding Pawpaw schools in the direction of positive change that we all want.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you to the Chamber for hosting this and Freshwater for hosting us here. That means a whole lot to me. I am excited to, hopefully continue on the board and continue to listen and learn and support all of our kids. I think it's been said, throughout the night that all of our kids are important and we should be focusing on them as a whole and them wholeheartedly. And I want us all to continue to do that. And I just thank everybody who was here tonight to support our kids. And I look forward to answering any questions that people have. Out there with some cake or pie. Was there cake or pie? What did you say? I'm excited
Something
for that
out there.
afterwards. So stop out and see us after that. But again, thank you all for being here tonight.
All right, I think everybody gave some pretty good answers tonight. As you can see through the things that I've said, I have a huge passion for supporting and serving people. Biggest thing I'm passionate about is reaffirming and affirming that relationship between the student and parent. Allowing the family values to be taught at home and taking that stress off the teacher's plate is important to me. I promise that if I'm elected, I will represent our district professionally with honesty and integrity. Education is extremely important to me, which is why I've chosen to run for a position in education. My service in the military has provided me with the opportunity to complete an associate's, a bachelor's, and a master's degree. My master's is MBA with emphasis on human resources. My background is mostly focused on legality and liability, so I want to make sure that I can protect our district that way too and represent us well that way. I promise that if you elect me, I will be a parent's voice on the board, and representing the voice of the parents, I will always be available for you to share your concerns with me, and I will work to earn your vote every day. Thank you so much for coming.
Great. Great job. Thank you, candidates. Best wishes with the rest of your campaigns. Can we give them a round of applause? All right. Good job. We're going to take a quick, really brief 5-minute intermission to reset the stage and ask the rest of the candidates to come on up. So if you need to grab a beverage or the bathroom break, go for it. Okay, we're going to get started again. If you can hear my voice out in the Commons area, come back into the auditorium. We are going to begin very, very shortly with opening statements for our state and federal candidates. Let's do this. I just went over all the ground rules with them to make sure they're on the same page. We're ready to go. Why don't we start with just a little round of applause for these guys up here on stage. Get them warmed up. All right, candidates, you ready? Okay, I'm going to turn this mic on. There you go, Jared. We will start with opening statements. 2 minutes for Jared.
Hi, my name is Jared Polanowski. I'm running for the... sounds good? Stand up. Can we stand up? Stay seated?
No,
That's
let's
fine.
stay seated. Sorry.
That's okay. Real quick, I'm from Otsego Township, running in House District 39 for the House seat here in Michigan. I'm a father of 4 kids. They're 6, 7, 9, and 12, so my household's quite busy. I'm getting really good at multitasking and budgeting very well. Kids are expensive. I decided to run after I felt like continually every year I vote. I've voted since I've been able to vote at 18, and I just found a lack of representation. I found that the people on the ballot did not represent me and the things that affected me, and that many of them were completely disconnected from what was happening in my life and the people that live in my community. So.
Okay. If you're set, you can pass the mic to Senator Nesbitt.
Thank you. Thanks for helping organize this. Thanks for moderating. Thank you for turning out. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Always good to be here in Pawpaw. Most of you know me. If you don't, I'm Eric Nesbitt. I'm your current state senator here in Van Buren County with the Redistricting Commission. Thank you. They took out Antwerp Township, so that's going to be part of most of Kalamazoo County. But the new Senate district's going to be the northern half of Berrien County, most of Van Buren, middle half of Allegan, up to Byron Center and Gaines Township. It's been an honor to represent you the last 4 years. As you know, I grew up on a 6th-generation dairy and grape farm here in Van Buren County, south of Lawton. Still live down the road from the farm with my wife and 2 kids, a 3.5-year-old and an 8.5-month-old that just got 2 teeth that broke through, and so we're figuring out how to sleep at night. We're making sure that happens. But I've appreciated working for all of you over the last 4 years, continuing to work to really battle against, as we saw, the COVID shutdowns, battle against those, work to stop any new tax increases, and also work to try to get the schools back open. As we've seen over the last 4 years, the state's gone through many challenges, and I look forward to continuing to work for you as we work to really pay down long-term debt, work to get Michigan to work again, and continue to work to grow the number of jobs here in the state. So thank you for your time, and looking forward to a good discussion this evening. God bless.
Thank you for covering districts so that I don't have to. My name is Kim Jorgensen Gain. I am the mother activist and Kim That Cares, running against Senator Nesbitt for State Senate in the 20th. I am fighting for voting rights, for reproductive rights, for safe, affirming, well-funded public schools, and for paid leave, because those are the keys to putting economic and political power into the hands of the people, especially into the hands of people like you and me who care for other people. I am mothering 4 adult children, 2 generations of kids. My daughter, who I had alone at 20 and raised alone for the first 6 years of her life with no child support. My stepdaughter, and there are 14 and 16 years between my kids. The son my husband and I had together after 6 years of infertility, and the nephew we raised. My husband and I have been married we celebrated our 28-year anniversary on Saturday. We've been together 30 years. My oldest daughter, who is 35 now, had just had her first baby. And so I am Gigi to 3 granddaughters. And so I'm fighting for them. I'm fighting for their future, for our children's future, and for us to make our own private and personal health care decisions without government interference.
Good evening. My name is Sean McCann. I am the current state senator of the 20th District, which up until now has been a perfect square, Kalamazoo County. And as Senator Nesbitt indicated, with a redrawing, there's a small portion of Kalamazoo County that will go away, and Antwerp Township has been added to the district. So I'm running for to represent that new district, and I hope that my qualifications and resume will convince you that I should be reelected. I've been in the state Senate for 4 years, and I've served 2 terms in the State House. I have been on the Kalamazoo City Commission previously for 5 terms, 10 years. I'm currently serving on the Senate Appropriations Committee. I served on the House Appropriations Committee. I like budgets a lot, and I find that they are a highly effective way to realize a lot of priorities that are important to people in the state of Michigan. Things like funding schools, which has been done at a record level in the past 2 bipartisan budgets that have been passed in Lansing. Things like investing in roads and infrastructure, which I think you also can look around and see is happening at a rate that has never heretofore been undertaken in the state of Michigan. We protect water and make sure that the water that comes out of our taps is safe for our kids to drink, replacing lead lines in our communities and across the state of Michigan. So these are the things that are important to me, along with protecting democracy and making sure that everyone's vote counts in our ballots. And those are the things that I want to continue to emphasize and invest in should I be elected to a second 4-year term in the Senate. I really appreciate the Paw Paw Chamber of Commerce having me here this evening, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Paw Paw Chamber of Commerce, for having us here tonight, and thank you all for coming as well. I am Dr. Tamara Mitchell. I am running for State Senate District 19, and I have been serving very diligently, side by side, every day with the people of Kalamazoo in this region. And I began serving with them out of their need and their concern about having their questions and issues answered, things that were not answered when their elected officials were not present, would not come forward, and would not participate with them at all. And so in that, I became the founder of the Kalamazoo Electoral Action Team. And what we do with the Electoral Action Team is that we as citizens, we come together and we discuss issues that are important to us. And we discuss ways that we can resolve those issues. And we go before our elected officials through public commentary, emails, whatever method of communication is appropriate. And we do that civilly. We bring our issues directly to those who are supposed to be leading us. And in that, we've been able to change a lot of things in Kalamazoo. And there are some things that still need to be done that have not been done. And in this process of doing that, the people came to me and said, "We want you to run to be our senator." And that is what has brought me here to you tonight. I served 20 years ago as a fellow.
Time.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
U.S. Marines in California. I'm originally from the South Bronx, and my wife is from the Zeeland Holland area, where her family can be traced back to the Mayflower. And during my time serving in the Marine Corps, I was a lead project person, or you would call project manager, while stationed in Okinawa, Japan, and overseas, to overseeing infrastructure projects to the tunes of $2 to $3 billion worth of work. So I'm bringing that experience along with my sales and finance and banking backgrounds in order to really improve this community, because we need representation that knows what it's like to work their way up, who knows what it's like, that the struggles that we face every single day, it's going to be something that's going to get ignored if somebody's never struggled. It's going to be something that no one's going to pay attention to or even put the effort forward to if all they know is the position of authority. So serving in this community is going to be really important to me. My daughter has a bright future ahead of her, and I want to make sure that her and her friends have that same future. I want to make sure we put the effort forward in order for her to have that future, because when my mother and father came from the Puerto Rican and Dominican Republic, they wanted to give us a shot. They wanted to give us the opportunity to do something with ourselves. And living up to their mantra of just put in the work and really complain, and that is what we're trying to do here today. So thank you all for coming out.
My name is Lawrence Wenke. I'm running for the District 4 seat. Most of us are represented currently by Congressman Fred Upton, who has decided to retire from that position, and there are several of us who are eager to fill that job. I'm a former Republican, now currently running as a Libertarian for a whole lot of reasons, which maybe we'll talk about later. I'm a small business owner. I'm a former owner of Wenke Greenhouses in Kalamazoo. We have 60 acres of ground covered with greenhouses. We have anywhere from 200 to 300 employees, depending on the time of the year. We grow flowers, annuals, and sell them in about 15 states. Most of them die every year, which is good for us and not good for the buyer, but it works out well. It's been a good business for our family. I've recently moved the business over to our two children. Our daughter Lisa is the CEO of the company now. Our son Jeff is a pastor of a large church in Portage. I do have experience in government, real experience. I was a Kalamazoo County Commissioner for 8 years, serving 3 years as chairman in that position. A very, very good educating, learning experience and a great place to start serving in government. Then I went on to be a state representative for 6 years. That's all you can serve in Michigan is 6 years under the current term limits. Did that for 6 years, and then the Constitution fired me, and I had to go back to my real work, which was Wenke Greenhouses. I'm running because I think that we deserve better government than what we're getting right now. When you watch the Washington scene as much as I do, you simply cannot be proud of our country. What they're doing, what they're saying is simply that should be unacceptable to all of us. I think I can do a lot better. We send a lot of money to Washington, and we should be able to expect good results.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to do the question portion. You'll see it's the same format as the school board, with the exception some of the questions will be directed specifically to the state candidates, others will be directed specifically to the federal candidates, and then some will be directed to both state and federal. So, first question is for the state candidates, and that question is, what role do you think the government should have in establishing workplace policies like paid sick days, paid family and medical leave, and minimum wage?
Thank you. Well, the role that the government should have in establishing workplace policies, paid sick days and paid family leave, as well as medical leave and minimum wage, is well established. We have stakeholders, and in this governmental process of deciding and establishing balance between the stakeholders' needs, we always have to go back to what is it that is impacting and affecting the worker. The worker has been the person or persons who basically move our economy along. Without the workers, our economy does not function. Even though we have large companies, corporations, who are also providing the tools for us to do jobs and to move our economy, we have to be mindful of what we need to help workers to be better at what they do. And so, with government being involved in these areas, as government has been, We should continue in that same vein, but keeping in mind that there should also be a balance between the needs of the employee and the needs of a corporation, as well as the needs of our economy for it to work properly and to be strong.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. The state of Michigan has a role currently in affecting these policies and matters, and I don't sense that there's a great need for a change in that role. One of the things that I was proud to do when I served in the State House of Representatives in 2013 was to take a vote to raise the state's minimum wage, and I was very proud of that, and some subsequent events to that caused that to be undone, but you also have the ability, and the state legislature has to honor the will of the voters, and this is a matter that's probably going to be taken up in the next legislative session, which is there was a ballot initiative that passed minimum wage increases, paid sick time, paid leave, and that was postponed by court processes, but ultimately now may prevail again in the future. And so how that gets handled by the governor and the state legislature will be something that will be high on the list of things to be happening in the next legislative session. So I hope to be present for that, and I hope to make sure that we have a good outcome. Thank you.
So paid family and medical leave is one of my top 4 legislative priorities in making Michigan a paid medical and family leave state in particular. Tired of waiting for it at the federal level, and I think that we can make it happen at the state level. There are people who are working 20 hours a week as servers in restaurants in our very seasonal economy here in Michigan, particularly in Southwest Michigan, who don't get paid leave if they have to leave work to care for themselves, to care for an infant, sick or aging family members, and someone who works 20 hours a week waiting tables is contributing a significant portion to their household income, and they deserve paid leave for that. I would like to take the power out of individual employers, some of whom may be vindictive against employees, to delay unemployment payments. I had a friend who was a single mom, lost her job during COVID, and her boss let her paperwork sit on his desk and never turned it in. And it took weeks and weeks and weeks for her to get her unemployment. I think we need to make it so that we are not assuming the worst of people. We are assuming the best of people and taking care of fraudulent issues if and when they occur and putting resources towards that instead of gatekeeping and making it hard for people to access those benefits.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. I think this goes back to kind of what fundamental role of government we believe in and what should there be. We live in a free market economy where people can decide who they hire, where they work, how long they work, how much they work, and decide what their best value is on whether it's through labor, capital, or other means. I do think that most of these decisions should be decided between the employer and the employee and should strike a deal. A lot of employers offer these positions. A lot of these employers are currently paying way further than what the state's minimum wage is or other minimum wages because of the shortage of labor that's out there. The market decides a lot of that. And I think whatever we can to allow people to succeed in the free market economy, to grow, to prosper, will lead us to be a more successful business open state. Putting more mandates on businesses, on small businesses, will only detract from growth and allowing more people to grow and succeed here in the state of Michigan. And so as somebody who continues to believe that the best place to raise a family, start a career, have an education is in the United States of America compared to anywhere else in the world, I believe that having a flexible labor market is very important as part of that.
So I'm going to go very quickly here, so hope you guys can keep up. This question is a little complicated because it's use a general term of government. There's federal government, state government, and local government. And I believe that all three of those governments have different roles, and I believe they all need to stay in their lanes when it comes to things like this. I think that some people perpetuate that disconnect between what is available between employers and employees. Personally, I've had most of my positions that I've worked for in the last 20 years not provide many of these things, and the one or two that have generally found ways to take it from me. And that's generally a big cause of concern in my end. But because these all have different roles at different levels of government, I feel that you have federal and state that should be setting things like minimum wage requirements, and that is because nationally we should have a minimum requirement for what people should be working for. And then because every state in the nation is not the same, California is not the same as Nebraska, they're going to have different needs, and that includes things like minimum wage. So I appreciate the fact that we do have minimum wage requirements, but I don't think that they're written correctly to account for things like inflation and increase in wages due to other unforeseen things like labor shortages. When it comes to PTO, here it says sick days, family medical leave. In my opinion, PTO is PTO. I don't think that you should have to tell your employer why you're taking your PTO, except that it is PTO. It's none of their business. That is the worker's right to their own privacy. And I think that that is used to leverage against the employee repeatedly, and that is based on my experience, again, working for over 20 years in many different facets in our economy here. Thank you.
Okay. Pass that all the way down to Lawrence. And the next question will be just for the federal candidates. Candidates, I can't remember if I mentioned this. You probably figured this out already, but the question's also up there, just so you can reference that during your answers. Keeps me from repeating the question over and over again. I think I forgot to tell you guys that. Okay, so next question. There it is. The United States has some of the highest healthcare costs and yet some of the most inequitable results. How would you improve the healthcare system? Easy question, right? 2 minutes.
That's a tough one. I certainly have read a lot, heard a lot, experienced a lot in the healthcare world. Somehow we need to identify what we are paying for. It's so easy for us to get services and not know what the cost of them is. So comparison is very difficult. There's so many of us in the country who are on Medicare or Medicaid or some policies where we hardly pay anything at all, and so it's hard to get a large group of people to be unhappy with their medical care, even though the cost of it is enormous. We need more competition in medical care. I certainly don't think that a nationwide service is what we want. I don't think in the countries that have it that it works out as well as what it would here, or as well as what we do. I wish I could say I knew the answer. I think if I had to find the answer, I have a process for getting a better answer. But by and large, we have the best medical care in the world, I think, and I think that is a result of the capitalism that's involved in our medical care. There's people out there who are fighting to make every dollar they can on our medical drugs and our medical procedures, and medical services, and I think that drive to make the profit and to make a product that is helpful to us is very strong and very effective, and for those of us that can afford health care, why it's a wonderful thing here in America. But if you can't afford it and I don't know how anybody can afford real health care insurance in America if they don't make $25, $35 an hour. I don't know what the base pay would be to be able to afford health care because it's in the hundreds and thousands per week.
Thank you.
So this is a very complicated question, and 2 minutes might not be enough time to go over all the details. But like Mr. Winkie here stated, we do live in a capitalist society, but we've removed the element of negotiation. Why aren't people who pay in cash are able to negotiate the price of their care? Why aren't people who have health insurance have the ability to negotiate the cost of their care? We have, myself in this case, have Marine Corps Veteran Affairs healthcare system, where they negotiate the cost that they're willing to pay to those ER doctors, to those urgent care facilities. That element alone will be able to assist so many people, but that is just one possible solution to a multitude of possible solutions that we can work on. It's going to be some time, it's going to take some work to ensure that people have access to those healthcare services as well. We might have the ability to say that we do, in fact, have really great healthcare system, but not a lot of people have the ability to access that. I mean, there are people who are paying $150 a paycheck just for their premiums, and if they have one other child in a couple, they're paying up to $350 a paycheck. How is that fair? They're paying another rent just so they can go get a physical every single month. So those dollars are slowly starting to shrink in their pockets, and how is that capitalism? Squeezing the little guy. That's not necessarily capitalism. There's no competition there. So there's some work that needs to be done, but we will find a way to get it done. Thank you.
Okay. If you could pass the mic down to Senator Nesbitt. This question is for all candidates. And that question is, voting is a fundamental right, and our system of government needs public trust in the process to maintain legitimacy. How do we balance concerns about election security while protecting the rights of every eligible voter?
I mean, that's the whole core of a democratic republic, is that you have everybody who is legal to vote is able to vote. And I think that's one of the issues and concerns that we've had with some of these recent ballot proposals that have come through. I have concerns with Proposal 2, for example, that's on the ballot, is that it would limit the ability of actually having real photo ID laws here in the state. It would allow ballots to show up days, weeks after the election. You'd have counting like you see in California and New York that goes on for weeks after the election instead of knowing what the results are actually on election night. And so I'm very concerned with what Proposal 2 would actually do to our election laws here in the state, along with the punitiveness that it would have on our local township clerks in setting up 9 early days of voting. We have no reason absentee voting right now here in Michigan, and then you're going to be putting on a whole new layer of mandates on our local clerks. This is the reason why the past 3 Secretary of States, Candace Miller, Terry Lynn Land, and Ruth Johnson, all opposed Proposal 2. And so that's something I know hasn't been talked about as much in the media as it is there. But the fundamental right to vote is there. We have to be able to make sure that one legal person equals one legal vote. And that's something that I think is pretty clear of what we need to see. Have a photo ID law like Indiana, be able to clean up the qualified voter files and not have what happened 2 years ago where Jocelyn Benson sent out millions of applications. Probably about 700,000 of them went to people that were either dead, moved out of the state, or shouldn't be on the voter law rolls anymore. And 3, like Florida, actually know what election results are on the day of the election.
Thank you.
One thing that we know from, 61, I think, challenges, legal challenges to election results that failed, is that we had the most secure election that we've ever had in 2020. and more voter participation than we've ever seen in 2020. Ideally, we have a citizenry that is getting civics lessons in school that are more than just a semester long. Ideally, we have access to voting that isn't just 8 to 5 for people who work all day and can't get to the polls and just Monday through Friday. Facilitating access to the right to vote is not the same as making it not secure. We need more people to vote. We need more engaged voters. We need to have much less fighting and discord in our electoral process. We need campaign finance reforms. We need requirements on telling the truth. I don't think anybody should be able to lie to get elected. There's so much that we need to do to make voting accessible and feel like people can understand it and how to do it. And we need to facilitate that and not put up roadblocks to it that are unnecessary. Thank you.
Goes to Jared next. Yeah.
So I'm going to follow on what Kim said there with participation. Participation is very important. We're still living in a time when less than 50% of voters vote. That is a problem. So if you want to talk about legitimacy in elections, anybody who wins in an election where there's less than 50% of the voting population voting, that's not legitimate. Doesn't matter how much they win by, in my opinion. And I think that we can drive up participation. I think part of this is that participation in government and voting and studying elections and candidates, while it is in schools, it's not enough. And I also want to point out to people, and this is what I saw in the last election with all these lawsuits that went on, there are systems already set up. There are positions where Republicans, Democrats can go to their polls and make sure that the ballots are being counted properly, that they're being looked at properly, and that they are being enclosed and transported properly. Do you know how often these positions are filled? Not as often as you might think. Usually they're vacant and no one's there. I did one year, and I found that one of our local townships was not following a majority of the rules that they were supposed to be doing. Now, it wasn't mean that they were doing something wrong. It's just that they did not follow the rules that everybody is supposed to follow when it comes to elections. And I think that filling those positions is important. And that, again, requires participation. But I think that if they're going to bring lawsuits like they did, maybe they should focus on participating in the systems that are already set up to confirm that elections are, say, legitimate there. But again, I think that we proved recently that they are very legitimate.
Thank you. Well, so I will venture first to say that every person sitting up at this table here tonight won their election in a primary that was held by local clerks that we all work with and know in our communities. To my knowledge, no one at this table has filed an issue or asked for a recount from the August primary in order to be sitting up here running for the general election in November. And so to me, I will say that tonight, and based on all the evidence and everything that's transpired in past elections, whether it was 2020 or 2018 or 16, that we don't have a problem with voter fraud or security in Michigan. Our elections are among the safest and securest that are run in the country, and I trust our local clerks and our election systems to give us the results that are accurate and fair. They may not be in immediately. Not everyone can go to bed at 10 o'clock knowing the outcome of the results, because we have a lot of absentee ballots to count. So we need to have some patience and know that there's a process. So I am going to honor that. And there is an avenue if there are concerns, if people think there's fraud, if people think there's some security that's been breached, there's processes for that. You can seek a recount. There were no recounts sought across Michigan in the 2020 election. What I think we've come to in this country is a time where if you have people who aren't happy with the outcome of the election, they claim that there was some problem or some fraud with it. But the reality is that our elections are giving us accurate and full results. Thank you.
This question is one that has been on the minds and hearts of many, many people in our community, and with good reason. We talk about the 2020 election in the context of being in the rearview mirror, but actually the 2020 election is still very much in front of us. And because of that, there are many questions that are still unanswered. People say that our elections are secure, that it's the best in the country, and I know that to be not factual. Number one, the Janetsky case came before Judge Murray last year in March, and he determined that our Secretary of State actually did violate the law with some of her policies and procedures that she took. Therefore, we did not have the election that we would have had she followed the procedures properly. With that in mind, we also have the issue of her mailing out millions of applications for absentee voting without being asked to by voters, and also without giving a full account of what happened to those ballots. Once again, we did not have an election that we would have had the violations not occurred. So yes, we have gone to court, and we have law. We have established fact that there were violations that led to a difference in our election outcomes. Thank you.
I would like to first state that 2020 is behind us. Election was over, and the majority of the local clerks all the way up to the county clerks in this state are Republican clerks who validated this election. So let's move on from that. Now, what we can do to improve legitimacy and assist with security is properly fund elections. We have clerks who want more security systems or have better hours in order for them to facilitate these elections that we keep voting against. We have to fund these elections in order to maintain the current level of security and improve current levels of security to remove any kinds of doubt. There's so many things we could work on with elections. I've worked personally on 7 elections, and there are so many checks and balances during those processes. By no stretch of the imagination can you even try to penetrate the system that they have in place in those areas. You know, there might be a battery issue, the thing shuts off and turns back on, but these things are all backed up. They have the facilities that just needs to be upgraded, that needs to be improved to keep up with the times. We have so much work to do ahead of these elections coming up in the next few years, but we've had a safe and secure election. It's over. We have another election coming up, because if there was an issue, why hasn't any clerk from the local levels all the way up through the county level stated such? Why hasn't there been legitimate clerks, not people who have worked somewhere around with clerks, state such facts? Let's move on from that. And as far as ensuring that, you know, we have these elections counted the day of and not have ballots come in late, there are service members and veterans who mail in their ballots, me being one of them. And if I knew that my state was going to throw out my votes after I'm serving in theater or I'm serving overseas, that would be a problem for me. Thank you.
I'm confident that the elections in Michigan are accurate and we get the accurate results, fair results. I have no question about it at all. I can't speak for other states. When you think of all the people involved in the election, all the different locations, all the different people who are leading the the balloting and counting, it's amazing that it's as accurate as what it is, but it certainly has not been proven to be an issue. Accuracy in vote counting almost anywhere in the nation. Yes, there are a few exceptions, but very, very few. I personally have been involved in 8 different elections. One time I won a primary by less than 100 votes out of 12,000 votes cast. I asked for a recount. It was recounted. I gained a few votes. It was amazing to me how accurate the balloting was across much of Kalamazoo County. We used to have confidence in the people who we paid to conduct our elections. That confidence still exists in most of us, but clearly a former president who didn't like the results has poisoned the waters on this issue with no basis, no facts, no wins, no courts, no victories, has poisoned the water on this. And why people are drinking that poisoned water, I have no idea. But for most of us, we've been involved in elections. We know the people who perform these services for us. Our elections are good, and we can have real confidence in the results.
Okay. Next question's for the state candidates only. First answer goes to Sean. Got the mic already? Okay, great. That question is, Michigan's public schools are facing numerous challenges, including teacher shortages, achievement gaps, and post-COVID learning delays. What do you see as the state's top education issues, and how would you address them?
Yeah, thank you. So just 2 things that come to mind quickly on this. Time is short. It's a huge policy topic. But number 1 is the financial side. And as I mentioned earlier this evening, budgets are a way that we express our priorities in the state of Michigan. And the last 2 budget cycles, which have been bipartisan budgets, have included record per pupil funding across the state of Michigan, have brought every amount level from rural school district to urban school district. Every student gets the same per pupil amount of funding. And I think that this is really a great opportunity for us to reinvigorate our schools, but also have high expectations of the outcomes. Here's the funding that you've always asked for delivered to you. Now we expect to see results from that over time to have better teachers and better student outcomes. The second piece I would say is that we have a shortage of teachers in Michigan, and I think that that's not by accident. The profession of teaching has been denigrated over a great number of years, and we have not valued teachers as we should. The great value that they bring when they touch our children, my children, and so it takes a while to right that ship, to let teachers know that they're valued and that we want good education in Michigan and that we want teachers to come to Michigan and be in our schools. And I think we have to pay those people reasonably well if that's what we're going to have the expectation of, and not constantly be trying to tear down teachers and make them seem like they're the fall guy or the bad guy in our schools. So for a moment on that policy topic, I think we're on the right direction in Michigan in funding our schools and our students, and I think that we're in the beginning curve of letting our teachers know that they're welcome here.
Oops, sorry.
Yep.
Thank you. The 2 top priorities that are of real significance to parents is, of course, learning loss that resulted from the lockdowns. Many of our students are very, very behind in their learning and development as a result of the lockdowns. And so they are having a difficult time not only with the curriculum, but they are also having issues with mental health as well. And so to address that, we have to, of course, put additional resources into making sure that our children get caught up and get caught up very quickly. In addition to that, we have the issue of what is actually being taught in our classrooms. What we've discovered during this time, dealing with COVID and the lockdowns, we discovered what was actually being taught in the classroom to the children. And some of it was inappropriate curriculum or inappropriate topics that resulted in parents going before school boards and saying, hey, I do not want my child to learn about these topics, particularly sexual topics, CRT, critical race theory, and those related issues. And so we have to be mindful of not only what our kids are learning in the classroom, but we have to be understanding and recognize that what they need is more than what we are teaching them. We have to deal with the mental health of our children and make sure that we are fully educating them so that when they do graduate, that they can be fully developed adults. Thank you.
Next one goes to Jared, yep.
All right, so I can tell you right now, it boils down to funding, 100%. I can tell you right now, I'm not a teacher. I have a bachelor's in education. I'm not a teacher because the compensation isn't there. I cannot afford to live on that salary. I'm divorced, I'm single, I have 4 kids. It's not possible. So, what do we know? With post-COVID learning delays or delays in general, one of my sons is on the spectrum and he has difficult learning, and I will tell you right now, even though this is more of a federal funded program, Title I, it's not enough. It doesn't go far enough, and it's not funded well enough. The student-to-teacher ratio, there are too many students. There are not enough aides. How do we get more? More funding. I'll tell you right now, if you want people to become teachers, it needs to be competitive. People coming through school and through college need to go, yeah, that's lucrative for me. I can raise a family on that. That's a career. I enjoy doing it, and it meets the requirements that I need to make money. And when you look at the people that teach your kids and you want them to be in your community, then you need to pay them enough money to live in your community. And there are so many teachers that cannot afford to live in the communities that they teach in. And this has been a downward spiral for years, and it's unacceptable. Thank you.
I am the product of public education. My parents, one of my brothers, and I, and all 4 of my children graduated from St. Joseph Public Schools. In St. Joseph Public Schools, I had an excellent public school education. I had, actually, I want to piggyback off of what Jared said about better pay. One of the key things that we can do is pay student teachers. The other thing that we really need to do is stop criminalizing teachers, stop weaponizing public education. We've had 40 years of DeVos-backed GOP control in the state of Michigan that has been undermining, underfunding, and sabotaging public education. The MEA, the Michigan Education Association, teacher union, is criminalized and weaponized by these forces. These are professionals who have taught themselves, who are working to get teachers better pay, better conditions, such as smaller classroom sizes, which would benefit all of our children, and better benefits. Stop calling teachers groomers. These are caregivers, these are parents, and it is a women-centered field that many women choose because they can have the same schedule as their children. Public education, a free and fair access to public education, is a reproductive rights issue. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I think education and providing a good quality education for our students in the next generation is really a core subject and the policy issue that we have to decide and work on. It's unfortunate that over the last few years, that as an excuse from the COVID outbreak, that they did force shutdowns of schools. And I don't agree with far left progressive like Mayor de Blasio that often, but I think he was right at the outset of COVID when he said that the daycare centers and elementary schools should have never been shut down. I think it provided a real challenge for these children in terms of the learning loss that has gone on, a disservice in preventing families from being able to work and earn a living. And it was a disservice to the students in the next generation. I think the question is, how do we empower our families, our parents, and our students to be able to succeed? Things like after we came out of some of these COVID shutdowns for some of the learning loss, we passed legislation, I know we worked with Representative Griffin on this, to provide scholarships for students, for families, to help with reading scholarships, to get them to catch up. Unfortunately, that was vetoed by the governor because it would have empowered families and students to actually work to achieve some of these ends of being able to learn and read. We've never enforced, over the last several years, some of the requirements such as helping students to ensure that they're reading by the 3rd grade. And instead, we've been seeing, it's been unfortunate that we've been seeing some of this woke culture creep into our public education system, and I think we just need to get back to the basics. The basics of learning how to read, how to do math, how to actually succeed in life.
Time.
And that's what I'm going to continue to work on.
Okay, thank you. Next questions for the federal candidates. Mike to Joseph, please. And that question is, U.S. inflation has eased in recent months, but it hit a 40-year high of 9.1% earlier this year. As members of our community are struggling to care for their families, what actions would you propose to lessen the burden of inflation?
One action we can actually take that is realistic and even possibly make it long-term, we can remove the federal tax on overtime pay for working people, because that is something that's going to hit people right away, and it's going to be most felt in those communities that do, in fact, need to pay that rent, need to get those groceries, need to get that gas at tank. That's something we can realistically work on. We can actually have a real shot of passing with bipartisan support, because who doesn't want to cut taxes? Who doesn't want to have more money on their paycheck rather than have less money in their paycheck at the end of every week? So that is something that we can work towards, and we're working with other congressional candidates across the country from both sides of the aisle and ensuring that we really craft this policy to removing federal tax on people making over 40 hours a week. Because you can work that extra 20 hours, make an additional $600, and still make after tax the equivalent of $7 a day. So we can do a lot better, and that will be felt immediately. We can get it passed, and everyday Americans will be able to feel that, not just within the community alone. Thank you.
I spent an hour today at a company that I own half of, hearing about the difficulties of securing supplies for the product that we make. Just getting the supplies is an issue. The cost of them has gone up enormously. We see it every day in the small business world that I operate in. There is no easy solution to it. We raised prices. We gave employees an 8% raise. We gave them bonuses to keep them coming. There's no easy way to deal with inflation other than as the Federal Reserve is doing in Washington, where they've made the cost of everything go up. And hopefully that will put a ceiling on our cost increases, and eventually the reduced demand for expensive products will go down, and inflation will go down along with it. I wish that I could say that I know an easy answer. I think that a lot of us have got to cut back on our spending. We've got to choose what we want our money to go to for, and reduce our spending on items that have got the most inflation. We see it every day. It's part of our world. I don't think it's caused, I think, partly by the deficit spending that's been going on in Washington for many, many years now. It's caused by COVID, the disruption of supply to us. We have a $5 million expansion going on this year for our business, and getting the products to complete that expansion is very, very difficult, to the point where we might not even get it done in time for the spring crop. So in the business world, we see this all the time. We're feeling it. It's real. It's going to be with us for a while. Spend less, drive less, go out to eat less.
Time.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, last questions for all candidates, starting with Joseph. And that question is, toxic polarization has permeated the political landscape. Is cooperation across party lines still possible today? And how do you find political commonality in this current divisive culture?
There's a lot of polarization in our community, and that's part of the reason why I decided to run. Our community has been fractured, it's been divided, it's been pushed either further left or further right, and we can do a heck of a lot better job at bringing it back together, bringing people to the table. Now, it's going to take some work, but it can be done. Like, I have had conversations with people who might have a Democratic-leaning sign in the front yard or a Republican-leaning sign in the front yard. Either way, they've still at least let me knock on their door, ask me questions, and whether or not they decided to be supportive of our campaign, it has been just absolute respectful conversations we've had. Now, it's just being respectful to others as well. And at the top of the ticket, you have to ensure that you're not trying to cause further doubt. Polarization only benefits those who are being elected. It doesn't benefit the people. We're trying to make sure we have things that we're doing that benefit the people. That means going to their events, even if you know nobody there is going to vote for you. That's something that you're supposed to do, because at the end of the day, we're here to represent the entire community. That's a country that I fought for. That's a country that my wife fought for. And that's a country that my brother-in-law is fighting for currently. All three of us Marines. So that's something that we can build towards. There's something that we can actually work towards. It's breaking those barriers, showing up to the places that most people won't expect one side of the aisle or the other to be at, and just being there, being present, breaking down those prototypical talking points that happen at the federal level, because at the end of the day, they're not here. They're not here in the community. They're not going to Meijer to go shop right next to you, and we can remove a lot of hate just by breaking down those barriers. Thank you.
I think it's good in the world of politics to remember that good ideas come from a lot of different sources. Democrats, Republicans, libertarians, taxpayer policy, party people. Everybody can offer good suggestions to problems. When I was chair of House Tax Policy in Lansing, we had ideas and suggestions and proposed laws introduced by both Democrats and Republicans. That was good. There was good on both sides. The chair of committees can meet and make people compromise, get together, get things done. That doesn't seem to be done in Washington anymore. I don't really know why the atmosphere in Washington is poisoned so much, except that it wasn't that way nearly as bad as what it was before a former president took office. I rank polarization as one of the nation's biggest problems right now. The solution will be talking to each other, working with each other, appreciating suggestions, proposals by everybody, equal treatment of people, and not thinking first about power and my position and getting reelected. I think Congressman Upton has set a tremendously great example He's a hero of mine. I think he's done an outstanding job in our community of being that kind of a congressman. And unfortunately for a good many states and parts of Michigan, they don't have the kind of leadership that we've had in Congressman Upton. And I hope we can continue with that kind of leadership into the future.
Kind of simple. Stop politicizing and weaponizing our existence. Either you believe that women and girls in the full spectrum of gender identities, sexualities, races, ethnicities, socioeconomic groups, abilities, religions, including no religion at all, are people too, deserving of equal rights and autonomy under the law, or you believe our state and our country should be ruled by a loud, entitled minority that believes they alone are preordained to govern us all, and not only to ban books, criminalize women, healthcare providers, parents, and educators, or keep 2 transgender athletes a year from playing sports, but to own all of us and profit off of that power. It's really that simple. Most people, though, exist in the middle, and they're filling the gaps in their families and in their communities that our systems don't fill, because we don't have things like universal health care, because we don't have things like child care, because we aren't taking care of the people who take care of other people. We need to prioritize women's lives and children's lives and families and the elderly over the potential for life, period. Our existence is not a political battle, and it isn't up for debate. We decide our own futures and our children's futures, period.
Time.
I think a lot of this question comes from, I think, media-driven work on trying to, I think, divide and separate us. I think that's part of the challenge that we have is political leaders is the reason why I continue to try to be as accessible and accountable to my own local community and around West Michigan is to listen to what folks are actually thinking about. I know Representative Griffin, who's here, is having served 6 years, and myself for a few years. The media doesn't cover 80% of the bills that are actually fairly bipartisan, you know, and work through. The media likes to cover if it bleeds, it leads. And that's unfortunately when it's only when there's that strong disagreement between the party is when the media actually decides to cover those kind of fights. And there are differences of opinion. There are differences of opinion between the different parties on the size and scope of government. I believe in a little smaller government, a little lower taxes. And so you do hear some of those fights. I'm a pro-Second Amendment, pro-police, you know, pro-life individual. And so, yeah, those are areas where you hear the fights and the battles. But a lot of the times it's about how do we work together and to pass a balanced budget every year. And I know, you know, Sean and I have, you know, I think, you know, we fought a decent amount in appropriations, but we also came upon a budget that passed unanimously this year, paid down long-term debt, invested more into roads, infrastructure, water, wastewater, record funding for schools. But you don't hear that in the press and the media because it doesn't get the viewership. And so I think part of it is having us to actually read and discover what is actually going on and happening in the legislative process.
So a big part of this one, I believe, lies in education. And I don't believe that you can be educated enough. I also believe that a lot of this comes into participation. I believe that if people were more directly participating, there would be more understanding as to what our elected officials go through on a daily basis. I know I can be abrasive sometimes, but I always try to act respectful, and I think unfortunately as a society we're kind of losing some of that, and cursing on flags, things like that. I don't think that is respectful, and I think that is teaching the next generation of kids, my kids growing up, that is the environment, or that is how this all works, and it's not supposed to. One of the reasons I'm sitting here today is because our system isn't working. You know, when I had issues because of the pandemic and I contacted my representatives, we got very few responses. Having a direct line to my representation did not happen. I believe that you need to be inclusive. When I canvass, I talk to Republicans, I talk to Democrats, I talk to Libertarians. Me personally, I voted for every political party that's on the ballot at one point in time in my life. And I have friends that are in and identify with most of the political parties. I will talk with anyone, and I think that that's very important, to not let your personal political biases control the people that you communicate with and that you allow into your bubble, your world. Thank you.
I'm very proud that I have a life where I have interacted and loved people from all walks of life. And that has been my story. But as far as cooperating across party lines, I do believe that you can do that, but you have to maintain the standards and values that you say that are a part of you. The standards and values that you've come before the people and said, this is what I stand for. And you can do that and still civilly cooperate, discuss, negotiate with people across the aisle. That is something that has to be done intentionally. It has to be something that we decide on the front end that we are going to do, and that there are limits to what we will and will not do as individuals. You set those standards for yourself. Each of us sets those standards on things that we will and will not do, the lines that we will not cross. And so that is how we bridge the gap for cooperation, for understanding, and getting the real work done. Thank you.
So I heard a story from a former congressperson a couple years ago, and he was a widower, and he was in Washington, and he had made friends, strictly platonic friendship with a widow, also serving in Congress. And they had built a friendship. They were from different parties. Had built a friendship, collegiality, had gone out to dinner, and had been spotted apparently out at dinner, and that news got back to the leadership of their party, and they said, you guys can't go out, you can't be seen out in public together anymore. You look like you're fraternizing with the enemy. Can't allow that. And I thought that that was a really great indicative story of sort of how things have unfortunately declined in terms of civility and in terms of our political activities over the years. And many things have contributed to that. Many factors that, again, would take probably more than a minute to cover. But it's telling, I think, that we've reached that place, and yet I'm committed to trying to get away from that place. I'm committed to being a problem solver in Lansing and doing whatever it takes to solve the issues, whether they're from Republicans or Democrats. and I'm committed to working my best for my constituents. And I come from a district that has a legacy of community service, of constituent service, and regardless of who that person is that calls my office and says, I have this problem, can you fix it for me? I don't ask them, are you a Republican or a Democrat, before I go about fixing their problem. So there are issues, again, time is short, but I'm going to be working on your behalf and willing to do whatever it takes to solve problems in Lansing.
Great. Okay, that concludes the questions. We're going to move to closing statements. Mike's going to bounce around a little bit because our randomized order does not line up with how the table's set up, but we'll get through it. 1 minute, though. You ready, Mary? All right, 1 minute for closing statements.
Thank you for sitting through all this. I'm impressed. I'm kind of a news junkie myself. I watch the news 2-3 hours a day, read newspapers. It's very interesting to me. I think we deserve better government in Washington than what we're getting. I'm embarrassed, and I hope you are too, by what's happening in Washington the last 5 or 6 years. We can do better. We pay them a lot, and we should be insistent on changes in Washington as best we can from our district. I think of Congressman Upton as my hero. I said that earlier. I've learned to know him. I've got to know him well through the years. His service to us has been immense. He shows up at our meetings. He visits us at our businesses. When you go to Washington to do some lobbying, he's there. He answers the phone, answers the door, so to speak. I can't give the man credit enough for the kind of service that he has been to us. I think I have a unique combination of politics and government in my resume, and I ask for your support.
All the way down to Jared.
So I want to thank everyone for being here tonight. I want to thank the Chamber for inviting me. I'm newer to this. This is one of my first times on stage with a microphone. And, you know, anybody is welcome to contact me. If you contact me, I will talk to you. I tried to answer the questions honestly here, and I tried to take my perspective on those questions. Many times my perspective differs from a lot of other people on the stage here. I just wanted to know that I am not here to make money. I am not here to make friends. I'm here to do my job, and that is to represent the people that are in my district. And I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
All the way down to Joseph.
Thank you to the Chamber and everybody here for attending tonight. And I just want to say that we have an opportunity here to really start to bring the community back together. You know, I'm here to represent the entire community. Might be on one side of the aisle, but here for the entire community. I'll work with whoever's willing to work with me so long as it gets things done for our community and our country. And most of all, I'm not a rubber stamp. If things go against what we need done for our community that harms our community, that's not something I'm going to be pushing for. So we have a lot of work to do, but as you stated earlier this year, I am willing to put in those hours. We have been making sure to reach everybody in every township that we physically can because we want to hear everyone's concerns and questions. So with your support, we'll be able to do even more than that. Thank you.
Well, thank you again for letting me participate in this forum this evening. Thank you all for being here and to the Chamber for hosting it. It's a real privilege to serve in office and to serve people, and I would ask for your vote to serve another 4-year term in the State Senate. There's lots of topics and policies and information that we couldn't get into tonight, so I'd welcome you to reach out to me. I'm easy to get a hold of. Have a website, social media, Facebook, Instagram, so on and so forth, and it's easy to drop a line to me through any of those avenues. So again, I'm going to just remain focused on our schools, protecting our water, making sure Michigan's infrastructure continues to get fixed, and protecting democracy for our state. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. Crime. is at an all-time high in our communities. 40-year high inflation. We are having difficulties with our children in schools as far as their learning loss. And we're still dealing with the loss of thousands of businesses here in Michigan. It is time for us to turn a corner. It is time for a change. And I want to be that change for you. Restoring law and order to our communities, supporting parents with their rights as parents, respecting that, and standing behind parents to support them to be the best parents that they can be. And then also growing our economy, cultivating new business growth in our communities. Those are all things that I am pursuing on your behalf. I ask for your support, and I thank you for listening to me this evening.
Thank you. Thanks for coming, all the audience members. Thanks for taking the time. Those that agree with me, those that disagree, those that are just trying to find out a little bit more. I appreciate the effort that you guys did to come out. Thank you for Mary, the moderator. Thank you for the Freshwater Church and the Pawpaw Chamber of Commerce for helping host this. I look forward to continuing to work on your behalf here in West Michigan to represent our values in Lansing, which really means that we're prioritizing our local communities over and our families over government. It's about trying to provide better pathways for our students. It's about reinvesting in our roads and bridges and infrastructure and not leaving more debt for our children and grandchildren. So I look forward to continuing to work hard for our community, and I look forward to seeing everybody at the polls on November 8th. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you. I'm running to ensure Michigan is a state that trusts women, pregnant capable people, educators, and healthcare providers, where Roe is restored and where all people find refuge to make the personal and private healthcare decisions that best serve us and our families without government interference. We need to once again be among the top-ranking states in safe, affirming, well-funded public education that serves all children, not just a select few. I'm running to say that Michigan needs to be a paid family and medical leave state, and that it needs to be a green public transportation state where rural and Black and brown communities have just as much access to jobs, education, and health care as mine does. And we need to be a state where informed, eligible voters turn out in record numbers in every election to cast their ballot and without harassment from their fellow Michiganders. As a reproductive rights activist, safe birthing, and paid leave activist, I am a candidate for this moment. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thanks. Candidates, thank you for being here. Thank you for respecting the time constraints, and let's just give them a round of applause. Appreciate you guys doing that and running for office. So we ran a little long. Thanks for sticking this out. Candidates are going to move into the Commons next door if they can, and if you want to catch them for additional questions on the way out, and grab some cookies. I think there's, somebody said, is there pie? I don't know what there is. There's something over there that you can eat, and I think donuts. Okay, I'm hearing donuts and coffee. But thank you so much for coming, and don't forget to vote on November 8th.